There are groups operating in the shadows. Groups that don't just want to change society, they want to destroy it completely. They believe that violence, chaos, and mass destruction are the only ways to build their twisted vision of a perfect world. These aren't characters from a dystopian movie. These are real organizations, real people, and they're more dangerous than you can imagine. Today, we're diving into the terrifying world of accelerationist cults, the extremist groups that want to burn civilization to the ground. This is going to be dark. This is going to be disturbing. But you need to know the truth. Let's begin. Before we go deeper, you need to understand what accelerationism actually means. Originally, accelerationism was a philosophical concept about speeding up technological and social change. Some tech billionaires today even promote a version called effective accelerationism, pushing for rapid AI development and technological progress. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about violent accelerationism, a twisted ideology that has infected white supremacist and neo-Nazi movements worldwide. These extremists believe that modern society is beyond saving. They think Western civilization is corrupted and dying. So what's their solution? Speed up the collapse, accelerate the destruction, use violence and terror to destabilize society until it completely breaks down. And in the chaos that follows, they believe they can build their white ethno-nationalist empire from the ashes. Think about that. These people are literally trying to cause a societal apocalypse. Let's talk about the most notorious accelerationist cult in modern history, Atomwaffen Division. The name means nuclear weapons in German. And trust me, they chose that name for a reason. Founded in 2015, Atomwaffen Division quickly became one of the most violent neo-Nazi movements of the 21st century. At its peak, this terrorist organization operated in 23 U.S. states and had international branches in Germany and Russia. But here's what makes them truly terrifying. They didn't just spread hate online. They acted on it. Members of Atomwaffen have been linked to murders, terrorist plots, and acts of extreme violence across the United States. They organized hate camps, paramilitary training sessions in the woods, where they prepared for what they called the coming collapse. Their required reading? A book called Siege by James Mason, a collection of neo-Nazi essays that literally calls for armed revolution and mass violence. And they didn't just read about violence. They worshipped it. Atomwaffen members idolized Charles Manson and his prophecy of a helter-skelter race war. They created propaganda videos showing masked members holding assault rifles and torches, chanting about racial violence. Even more disturbing, they received actual military training from the Russian Imperial Movement, a group designated as a terrorist organization by the U.S. State Department. Since 2017, the Department of Justice has prosecuted 20 Atomwaffen members, largely dismantling the group in the United States. But the ideology? It spread like a virus. Now, if you thought Atomwaffen was disturbing, wait until you hear about the Order of Nine Angles. This is where things get truly dark. The Order of Nine Angles, often abbreviated as O9A or ONA, is a satanic cult that originated in the United Kingdom in the 1960s. But this isn't your typical edgy teenager. Satanism. The U.S. government has officially described them as an occult-based neo-Nazi and racially motivated violent extremist group. Let that sink in. A satanic Nazi cult. The founder, believed to be a British neo-Nazi named David Myatt, operating under the pseudonym Anton Long, created a belief system that's absolutely horrifying. They believe Western civilization has been corrupted by what they call the Judeo-Christian heritage. Their goal? Overthrow the current world order and replace it with a new imperial fascist system based on social Darwinism and Satanism. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The Order of Nine Angles openly advocates for human sacrifice. They call it culling. They literally believe that killing people they deem mundane or inferior is a necessary spiritual practice. One of their propaganda pieces is called The Rape Anthology, And yes, it's exactly as disgusting as it sounds. It praises Hitler, Satan, and sexual violence, while demonizing Jews and minorities. And the most terrifying part? O9A has become increasingly influential among other accelerationist groups. Members of Atomwaffen Division were heavily influenced by O9A teachings. The cult's books became required reading for recruits. The ideology infected multiple neo-Nazi organizations worldwide. Atomwaffen and O9A weren't operating in isolation. They inspired copycat groups around the world. Feuerkrieg Division, an international accelerationist group, reportedly founded by a 13-year-old boy from Estonia. Yes, you heard that right. A teenager created an international terrorist network. Sonnenkrieg Division, described as Atomwaffen with less guns. This UK-based group became so dangerous that Britain officially listed them as a terrorist organization in 2020. They used leaderless resistance, independent cells and lone wolves, operating without central leadership to maximize chaos. And they coordinated through the darkest corners of the internet. Here's something that will truly make your skin crawl. After the Christchurch mosque shooting in March 2019, where 51 people were murdered, these accelerationist communities didn't condemn the killer. They celebrated him. They created propaganda depicting shooter Brenton Tarrant as a Christian saint. They called him a martyr. They encouraged others to follow his example. This phenomenon is called saints culture, the veneration of mass murderers within accelerationist movements, and it's become one of the primary tools for radicalization. They create memes, artwork, and manifestos glorifying killers like Tarrant and John Earnest, who murdered one person and injured 3 others at a synagogue in Poway, California. Both of these killers explicitly referenced accelerationist ideology in their manifesto. They believed their violence would spark the collapse they so desperately wanted. At the heart of all these groups is a book, Siege, by James Mason. This collection of neo-Nazi essays has become the Bible of accelerationist movements. It graphically calls for violence, claiming that civil war, a total revolution, would give targeted communities the death they so richly deserve. The influence of this book is so pervasive that experts now refer to siege culture when describing these violent accelerationist groups. The philosophy is simple and terrifying. Society cannot be reformed. It must be destroyed. Democracy has failed. Only fascism can save the white race. Violence is not just acceptable, it's necessary. The more chaos and destruction, the faster the collapse. From the ashes, a white ethno-state will emerge. This isn't just hateful rhetoric. This is a blueprint for terrorism. So how do these groups actually function? Online propaganda. They create slick, professional-looking content that glorifies violence and past attacks. Recruitment happens on encrypted messaging apps, fringe social media platforms, and the dark web. Manuals and guides. They distribute tactical guides on target selection, bomb making, and how to carry out attacks without getting caught. Radicalization pathways. They don't immediately recruit people into terrorism. They start with edgy, memes, conspiracy theories, and historical revisionism. Slowly, they normalize extreme violence. Occult practices. Groups like O9 use satanic rituals and occult symbolism to create a sense of mystery and purpose. It makes members feel like they're part of something ancient and powerful. Physical training. Some cells organize paramilitary training camps where members practice with firearms, learn survival skills, and build combat readiness. This isn't just internet fantasy. These ideologies have produced real violence. The Christchurch mosque shootings, 51 dead. Terrorist plots foiled across Europe and North America. Law enforcement agencies worldwide now consider accelerationist groups among the most serious domestic terrorism threats. Governments are finally taking action. The U.S. Department of Justice has prosecuted dozens of Atomwaffen members. The United Kingdom has banned multiple accelerationist groups as terrorist organizations. Germany, Canada, and other nations have increased surveillance and prosecution of these networks. But here's the problem. These ideologies spread faster than governments can act. For every group that gets shut down, 2 more pop up under different names. So what have we learned today? Accelerationist cults represent a unique and terrifying threat. They combine the worst elements of neo-Nazism, occultism, terrorism, and apocalyptic thinking into a toxic ideology that actively seeks societal collapse. They're recruiting vulnerable young people through online propaganda. They're training them in violence. And they're encouraging lone wolf attacks that are nearly impossible to prevent. But here's what you need to remember. These groups thrive on secrecy. Expose them, report suspicious content online, and seek help from organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center if someone you know is being radicalized. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And knowledge? This has been one of the darkest topics I've ever covered. But it's important. These groups exist, they're dangerous, and they're counting on people not knowing about them.